Okay, so welcome for the 15th episode of the Calisthenics Science podcast. So this time we have a guest, which is Frinks Movement. Say hi, Frinks.
What's up? Thank you for having me.
So today we're going to talk about a lot of things, about content creation on YouTube and Instagram. You are also going to know a little bit more about Frinks' current training, about his training history and things of that nature. And we are not sure about what we are going to talk next, but that will be for sure an interesting podcast. So we have a couple of questions before Frinks. So Alex, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So maybe before going into deep, let's do let's say a little word about the English podcast. So for our French listener, désolé les gars, si vous parlez français, on a décidé de faire un podcast en anglais pour aller plus loin. Il y a beaucoup de personnes intéressantes dans la communauté anglophone. Donc on ouvre un peu nos branches. Le Calisthenics Science podcast prend de l'ampleur. So for French people, I just say that we bring some interesting people right here on the podcast. We would like to speak with a lot of interesting people who speaks English, and maybe sorry for our English pronunciation and so on. We will do our best. And Frinks Movement is a very good guy, bodyweight enthusiast, like I would say, and we will let him introduce himself.
All right, so I guess I'm gonna just talk a bit about myself. So probably if you listen to it, like mostly if your audience is from like you have probably specific audience that is listening to those podcasts, so you may know, you may not know who I am. So basically, my channel and my Instagram are Frinks Movement. What I'm doing from very start, I was trying to provide certain value in terms of calisthenics online, but it all starts from simple content that I was posting on Instagram. The goal of this content, of those photos and those captions, was basically the documentation of my own training, right? So probably that's how most of us start, and I think that you do, guys, as well. You do it as well, so you document your own training journey. And so that was my priority at first. I wanted to just motivate myself, and during that, as I was doing that, also motivate others to do calisthenics. So later on, I started getting more into the content creation itself. So I started posting more informative stuff, and actually made that my thing. Then started doing some tutorials, but it was all on Instagram. So like 1 minute tutorials. Then about a year ago, I started, because we were talking about the content thing right now, right? So I started, I decided to open up the YouTube channel and to do it like really, like put my all effort into it, and all I can do to make it like quality stuff. And so it was really a big thing for me, the transition from posting 1 minute videos on Instagram or just photos to actually recording with camera, talking to the camera, and having to do all this editing, longer videos, add this B-roll footage, animation, and everything. This whole thing made me even more interested in the content creation alone, the aspect of content, not so much only about training. And that's when I started just expanding more towards being going like being a trainee still, but also at the same time just focusing on developing those skills that I mentioned. And at the moment, I have many things that I'm going for. So I definitely want to. So I definitely want to improve and in my own training. That's definitely one of the focus of mine. But I also really put my effort into this YouTube channel. I would like it to grow. I would like to just spread the good message and to continue with this quality and improve that over time. Also, I started editing for other people, as a side job, kind of. Mm, and this whole thing brought me, like I said, it opened many ways for me. Mm, and other than that, so I guess that's for now, that's it when it comes to the content creation. Of course, I do some other things, but yeah, you asked for the whole story with content. So that's yeah. Before that, I was also on some Facebook groups, some forums with street workout communities, but that was very like old times when people did know like nothing about street workout or calisthenics. It was very like little community, very minor.
So, what's your experience training
Yes.
wise?
Okay.
Once again, sorry because I didn't.
So, I was asking, what is your experience training wise? So,
Training.
when you do first started training, what are your current goals, and what are your latest performances?
Okay. So I started training because before that, and I mentioned that many times, I was a tennis player as a kid. I transitioned, right? Yeah, I transitioned from tennis to like traditional training, but I would say like it was weight training. But at my home, with my dad, I was just lifting some dumbbells. It was when I was, I guess, 13, even 13 years old. Yeah. Right now I'm 20 years old. So it was like 7 years ago, or 7, 8 years ago, I started doing anything in the direction of building physique, strength, or these kind of things. And after a year of this type of training, I transitioned to specifically calisthenics because I was really motivated by some videos online, especially Dennis Minin. Uh, this
Yes, this man.
he was like
The two chef
this.
guys who do muscle up with his bicycle.
Yes. Mm, like the videos of this,
Cool.
there's a very famous video of him that really like stuck in my mind, and it really motivated me to just like push myself to this whole calisthenics thing. And so I started calisthenics. I was really weak at the whole um, body weight thing. I had zero body awareness. I could not do even handstand or headstand against the wall. Uh, but somehow I was so inspired that I pushed through those hard times, and later on it became a better. Like I became better and better. Then after 2 years of this type of training at my home only, I joined the gym and I started introducing some sort of squats, some sort of lower body training. Uh, Later on, I introduced more flexibility stuff. Um, After another 1 year, 2 years, I met my friend, in uni. I met my friend who was really into dynamic calisthenics, so I tried that as well. I tried some acrobatics, and basically over the years I tried many things, somehow related to calisthenics. But what it turned out that my biggest focus, my biggest, I would say, the best performance is, and my maybe predisposition are in all things like handstand related and flexibility. These things like come a bit easier to me, and maybe I'm more like passionate about this sort of stuff. That's why it's my if we talk about my performance, my best performances, it's going to be definitely things with handstand, related to handstand somehow. And so now transitioning to my goals, to my prevalent goals that I have. I'm working on my front lever. That is my huge weakness, like in comparison to all the other things. If you listen to the podcast I did with David, you probably know that it's something that I really struggle with, and that I just have to bring up, because it's just strange to have such a weak front lever in comparison to all the other things. And my other goals are, and here's the interesting thing, I'm still working on the 90-degree push-up, even though I achieved a full 90-degree push-up, but I said to myself that I'm gonna just do it like perfect it a little bit, not maybe to the perfect form when you have like posterior pelvic tilt and protraction all the time, but to make it a little bit more consistent, and then transition again to planche training or one-arm handstand, something from those two. I'm thinking about both, because I think that so straddle planche I achieved before, and one-arm handstand I was never training for it like specifically, but I think that I might have some sort of good base for the one-arm handstand. So these are my, I would say, prevalent like goals, objectives, things that I'm focusing on. Obviously, I also do some flexibility stuff, and I might introduce some more leg training later on. But for now, the focus is purely on body weight. And I guess that's the whole training story of mine.
I saw that for legs you do some style of gymnastics stuff like flips, some maybe parkour or just flips.
You know what? Like I also I didn't mention that I had some little acrobatics background. And like, because people can misunderstand, I did not have any background in terms of like this handstand thing or like gymnastic shapes. No, it was purely acrobatics, more parkour like kind of classes. And I was having some experience with very very basic flips and stuff like that. But no, it was never like, I was never looking at that through like the perspective of leg training. No, when I'm talking leg training, I mean squats, like with barbell. When I was more into weighted calisthenics, then I was doing squats with barbell. And now at the moment, I'm not doing that. Uh, don't have any like specific reason, but maybe just my focus. So I don't have that much time for training anymore, and I want to focus all my attention, all my energy to things that I'm really like passionate about, and it's just it's just calisthenics, right? It's just body weight skills, upper body skills. I know people in this community who are who are basically training lower calisthenics, lower body skills. I did not even know that there are some crazy lower body weight feats.
Dragon
People,
squat.
yes, it's like really, if you think about, yes, dragon squats, things like that. I tried, and I have to say that I was humbled by my attempts. So
Of course.
yeah, so that's I guess about my training, like in a very short short way.
So,
Vas-y.
no, I let Morgan ask the question.
Okay, so you have a wide variety of content on your YouTube channel.
Mhm.
How do you decide which kind of video you will produce each time?
Okay, so how I decide, like how I used to do that up to this point, or how I plan to do it? Because that's a very
Both.
good question. It's a very good question because I'm still trying to figure out what is my thing. Um, I really so how I decide. Um, I basically have all my ideas written somewhere, and I do have lots of them. The thing is, when I have some sort of when I get some sort of idea, a good idea for a video, uh, and good by good idea I mean something that is really like not conventional. You mean you know? So it's gotta be something that I'm sure no one touched upon yet. It's not that hard because like we talked before, the calisthenics is not as you know it's getting popular, but not in this way. So you're not getting so much into like very detailed discussions, stuff like that. But yeah, but when it comes to the topics of my videos, the I'm gonna be very motivated to do that if there's no things like that. So of course there are some exceptions like videos about the wrist pain, but even then I wanted to do something different, so I added this yoga wedge that not many people are actually talking about, and that helped me in the past. So I had my ideas written. Then when I don't have when I finish my video, I look at those ideas, you know, and I'm thinking about like, those topics, and I'm thinking what sounds for me right now at this like this moment, this present moment, what sounds most exciting, because that's the thing that I'm gonna be that I will put my energy towards. And if I'm gonna just force myself to do some kind of video, it's not the same thing. Right now, I'm working on a video that I'm really passionate about, and I really want to share that, but it still like needs some work. Mm, in terms of type of content, I think I'm going to go more towards voiceover style videos. Um, I think that you did that with you Morgan did that with your straddle press or something. Or I saw some videos. Like it's very. I think that's a very good way to just create a video. Of course, you need a footage to like the background footage, and especially if you talk about like lots of stuff and you don't have your own footage, and so it takes much more time editing wise. But at the same time, you don't have to record, and recording your face and everything is like pain in the ass sometimes. You guys know that. It's just you every time you just see something on your face that is not, and only you and only you can see that. Only you can spot those little things about you. uh, it takes hours sometimes to record, even like 5 minutes videos, or maybe 10-minute videos. So I'm going more towards voiceover. Also, people tell me that it's more enjoyable to watch because more is happening, you know. Mm, and yeah, so I guess I'm gonna just stop my answer here because I'm gonna talk and talk. So if you have any other questions regarding this stuff, just ask me more specific.
No, it's fine. It was a quite complete um, answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It's good.
Oh, great.
Okay. I would have a question. So you mentioned that you create content and so on. You take a lot of information on street workout groups on Facebook, on community, and that's not for nothing that we are in touch right now,
Mm-hmm.
because you enter in contact with me, and I think you did this with a lot of people. is really something that calisthenics athletes or people needs to work on. It's maybe contact and stay in touch with others. I saw Morgan YouTube's video, so I I just comment his YouTube, and then it just went from there to now. We have done a 15 podcast with Morgan, and right now, we invite you just because just because we spoke about training, and I think you do this more than us, even more than us, because you are also so passionate about this kind of stuff. So I just would like to ask you that um, you where do you find informations for the content in books, in conversation with people? With
Mhm.
I think you also talk with a great coach, great people like Bistem, like Jacob Kowalski, I think, and maybe other guys.
Yes,
Just
Marco.
speak about this.
Yes. So yes, so the first part of what you said here, yes, that's something that I just learned that, and I started just I'm gonna call it like searching for and embracing opportunities.
Yeah.
So in the past, I was totally not this type of guy, you know, in any area of my life really. But when I started being actually very so passionate about something, I decided that I just have to just push through those certain barriers of mine. Well, it's maybe not very noticeable. It's probably not noticeable, but normally I'm quite I'm like introverted person. I'm not very loud in groups or this kind of stuff. I was very shy in when I was a kid also, and so it's not very natural thing for me to just search for contacts and contact people, talk with them, and have conversations. But when you actually just start doing that, then it's all like it starts rolling. So you meet more people, you start having your own communities, your people who know you, who will like it all starts rolling, and you guys know that because you guys do that, right? Like you said, we just I was just seeing little bits like posted just your I think posted your on the story, posted your post like call to action, and or just a link to it. And so I just decided to chime in. I commented, you went to my profile, you commented. Then I saw that you have a YouTube channel. I went there. I saw that you do videos. We have like similar, all the audience. I commented, I subscribed, and now we are here making podcasts. And it's a beautiful thing when it comes to like today's uh, opportunities we have with online, and we have to use them to achieve like our goals and our passions to just do things we want to do because we have those opportunities. So in terms of those ideas, like you mentioned, so what I do is, for example, I'm listening to some podcasts, but they are mainly podcasts that revolve around powerlifting or bodybuilding, nutrition, psychology, things like that, because these things are really interesting to me to just like psychology, for example.
Which podcast? Because we also had a lot of podcasts with Morgan, and we have already talked about the podcast we listen.
All right, so honestly, my favorite podcast right now is because I used to do this kind of just was just searching on Spotify the topic, and no matter what was who was the host of this podcast, so I don't know the names of, for example, those psychology related podcasts. or things like that. But I was just trying to check if people who are there are just not certified, but just know what they're talking about, right? But right now I'm just on barbell medicine, right? So I'm just listening to things because I'm also a physiotherapy student. So things like injury related and rehab are also something that I'm just into. Nutrition is something that I used to be very into years ago. Right now less, but it's also very interesting to me too. So we have Revive Stronger. Also, I really love this podcast, and I sometimes when I just see some people doing podcasts with, for example, Mike Israetel or uh, Lyle Lyle McDonald.
Lal McDonald, yeah.
Yeah. So I also like to. So I'm listening to this kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. So it's all not strictly calisthenics related, right? But you can, and it's something we have to do, is just transitioning this knowledge to our thing. Mm, and yes, and therefore, just when I'm on some kind of ride, when some sort of topic starts passionate, I start being very passionate about some sort of specific topic, like for example, training psychology and motivation. Then so I decided that I'm gonna just use my situation and everything and do a video about my experiences with loss of drive and passion to calisthenics and what are my ways to conquer that. And I actually used some things from those psychology, pages and podcasts that I learned that are basically like about creating habits, sticking to those habits, and just removing friction or adding friction when you want to remove some sort of habit. So yes, very interesting stuff. Talking to people is also something. Some people just over the years. David, for example, David was a person that also gave me some ideas for the videos. Um, and he really supported, for example, this reverse ego lifting video that I did about just being comfortable when it comes to calisthenics, how easy it is to just stay in your comfort zone when you can do some spectacular things and you can go to the gym, do like handstand and everything, and just stop that because you don't have a motivation to go farther and to actually work on something. Uh, you can stay in that comfort zone and how harmful that is to your progress. And he was very like he really enjoyed the video. He told me that it's my best one, and the topic and the whole idea. So yeah, so this is the way I guess. And sometimes I just have the idea, I write it on my phone, and then when I have time, and then I'm just gonna do that. That's how it is.
Okay, it's really interesting. Maybe you I just don't find the words for the question.
Tu veux dire quoi,
How
Alex?
to translate it? Attends, je réfléchis. Je sais pas si c'est une question, Morgan.
Ouais. Ouais, enfin, savoir comment il s'entraîne actuellement.
Ouais.
So for Frinks, I was wondering because you are sharing your trainings on Instagram
Yes.
quite frequently.
Yeah.
But how is your current training plan in terms of microcycle, mesocycle, or maybe even macrocycle if you plan it ahead?
So I rarely do like macro cycles, but it's very like I guess you can call that because I call it training focus for a couple of months. But yeah, so in terms of posting my training, I don't post every single session. So that is like people ask me, oh, so you were last time you were doing handstand push-ups 2 weeks ago. It's just sometimes I do have a mood to just record myself and post that. Sometimes not. It's not that I'm posting like very strictly. Also, I don't post every exercise that I do because I don't want to also spam. I just want to post something to just let something happen on that profile of mine, because I'm pretty inactive when it comes to posting. So I just want to make my stories more interesting, so people actually still like are there. So when it comes to my training, right now I'm working with, and unfortunately, or maybe I'm gonna start just what I'm doing right now. So I'm doing a base workout, so a base training session, doing which I'm doing like less specific exercises that are more, let's say the focus of them is not the specific skill ability, but and I know that it's very controversial to say general strength, because strength is always specific, I guess. But you know what I'm talking about. Like I'm doing handstand push-up, some sort of overhead pressing, some sort of row, some sort of maybe dip, weighted dips, things like that. What I'm doing right now is I'm rotating between, oh, and weighted pull-ups. I'm rotating between high reps and low reps. So when I'm doing this base training, I start with handstand push-ups on one day, and I'm gonna do them on the max elevation. So I have like full range of motion, the shoulder tap, and I'm doing 3 reps of that for a couple of sets, and I'm gonna increase those sets over time. But that's in a second. I'm gonna talk about it, how I progress. But this is day 1, for example. And then next time I'm doing my base work, I'm gonna do handstand push-ups on the floor, but gonna do sets of 8. So this way, it's not. I'm not saying that it's some sort of magic thing to do, but it makes me more, interested, and more. I think just I have more passion towards that, because I know that in this, like, if I had so much time to develop, I'm gonna be stronger probably in this particular exercise. I'm gonna be able to add some reps when I do that. And what happens is, when I was doing only, for example, only sets of 8, at some point it just got boring, and it also got like to the point that I was really have to like force those reps to the point that it was counterproductive, I would say. So yes, so I do that, and same with weighted pull-ups. On one day, I'm gonna do sets of 3 with 40 kilos, but I might do then sets of 10 with 15 kilos, right? So again, some sort of rotation with intensity, which is like I read on Austin Barbell Medicine, I think, post. It's not that important. Like, specific rep ranges are not as important when it comes to long-term progression, as long as you stay within, this strength building, let's say, or mass building scheme. But yes, so that's what I do. Then I transition to some sort of row that is a supplementary towards my front lever. And when it comes to just choosing row, supplementary row, I had so many like conversation, for example, with Jakub about the all the like advantages, disadvantages of certain variations of row. And so I decided that for now I'm just gonna do barbell rows at least on one day, because that's when I can actually measure this progress. But I changed from doing classic bent over rows to doing actually deficit. So I'm standing on some sort of deficit, and I really try to touch to my belly with the barbell. So I actually pull the mechanics are pretty similar, like in the front lever pull. Obviously, it's totally different because you don't have to push towards the bar. But I also can focus on that, that open posture, retraction, and having this very strict and consistent form. I can focus on just adding weight consistently to the bar, getting stronger at that. Then I'm doing some sort of tuck plunge push-up on this hard day or high intensity day, when I'm doing sets of 4, right? And I might transition to advanced push-ups later on. On the second day, I'm gonna do pseudo planche push-ups, like lean push-ups. I call them lean push-ups, and I hit 8 reps. Then I transition to my so after these rows, I do some sort of bicep work. Why I'm doing bicep work is mainly, I think, the appearance aspect, but also in my own training, I found that I'm not doing any straight arm pushing work at the moment, which would just activate bicep, and I'm not doing any sort of I'm doing pull-ups, weighted pull-ups, but with pronated grip, which is related to my tennis elbow history, but it's for another time because that's a long story. I'm basically doing pull-ups instead of chin-ups, and so therefore I want to have some sort of bicep activation, even for the sake of getting back to straight arm training in the future. With the planche, I want to be sure that my bicep is prepared for that. So I'm doing some concentrated, some isolated curls, this kind of stuff. Not getting pumped after a session, basically. And I'm doing some sort of chest work also, along with the bicep, because that's an area that I think in calisthenics in general, I don't know if you noticed that, but sometimes people, maybe not in the weighted calisthenics, but definitely chest is not the strongest point of calisthenics athletes.
Of course. But it's not, I think it's not a point we should work on, because the shoulders are much more important than the chest. If you are a chest guy more than a shoulder guy, you will not be a very strong calisthenics athlete.
Yes,
But
that's for sure. That's for sure. I do have one anecdote with the bench press, but that's later on. So yes, so what you just said is true, and that's why I'm probably doing that also from the appearance standpoint mainly, but because my front belt and everything is very dominating in my physique. So I just like to add some sort of weighted dip, some sort of weighted push-up. And I think that my weakness in the horizontal push in comparison to vertical push is also something that may be beneficial to work on. And so obviously I'm choosing dips right now because it's more convenient. But I guess maybe the stimulus to fatigue ratio with weighted push-ups would be better. Gonna have to figure it out, honestly. Did not think that very specifically. So that is my base work, and my skill work is just doing, the stuff that I'm working on right now. So I'm doing, for example, the singles of straddle 90-degree push-ups. I'm doing this front lever exercise with bands that David showed me. So the invert, 2 front lever, pause. So I'm not using any stretch reflex. Then I'm getting back and I'm just building. So I'm in the phase that I'm building volume with that. And later on, I'm doing also some sort of dragon flag work, open hips, so things that will help me to just drill that open body cue, in the front lever, something that I was lacking. I was always doing front lever with just protracted scapulas, with, more closed hips and everything, and that's because I never went towards open hip variation, like the straddle halfway, things like that. Straddle, I was always doing tucks, advanced tucks, and it just created this habit of mine to be in the close body shape. So now, so you have my training like routine, some sort of like exercises that I'm doing, exercise selection, which is, like I said, rotating. The base stuff is staying pretty much, this handstand push-ups, I'm gonna always do them, weighted pull-ups as well. But the stuff I'm doing later on, it's not as important, this exercise selection, as long as I'm stimulating these areas. I'm just gonna rotate, the rep ranges, exercises, and everything. And so when it comes to the progression and in how I do that in mesocycles, I usually work with the system of base work, rest, during which I'm doing some sort of flexibility stuff, for example, rest, then I'm doing my skill work, rest, base work, rest, and stuff like that. Now I'm gonna have to transition because I start uni tomorrow. I'm gonna have to just put my schedule like to the week scheme, so to the 7 week actually, and doing every second day is not working in this scenario. And I'm working like that. Usually I don't have a specific number of weeks, but I usually work, I found myself to get pretty fatigued after 5th or 6th week, or sometimes 7. Depend on the situation and depend on how hard I start the cycle. But I start pretty easily. I start usually from like 2 sets of certain exercise. I don't want to just because that's the mistake I did. I was always starting too hard from the beginning, because that's when you have you start a new plan, you start a new routine, you want to just put everything towards that, and that's when you get very fatigued and you get burned out after like 2 weeks. And you have to deload, even though you could actually just go a bit easier later on and then just push towards the end, do that deload. I'm a fan of that. I don't know is like if there's any real benefit from doing this sort of model that but eventually you're gonna build up some fatigue anyways. Like you can progress linearly, but at some point, especially on a higher level, you're going to build up some fatigue, and you're just going to have to, like when you super compensate, this little graph, I think that you're going to have to just go through that at some point. So after this, let's say 6 weeks, the volume is pretty high. And so that's when I'm going to do a deload. Usually when I'm doing deload, I increase the intensity of exercise in some way. So when I was doing, for example, I ended my cycle with 40 kilos pull-ups, for example, for 6 sets of 3. Then I'm gonna do 43 kilos, but I'm gonna do just 1 set of that during my deload. 1 set of 3.
Okay.
It's not very conventional. Some people just cut the intensity and volume to the half. I tend to cut volume really, like in terms of number of sets. I just cut the volume, but intensity I like to even like make it grow, because I want to get used to that. Especially when we talk about increasing intensity in terms of like handstand push-ups, then I'm gonna just increase the elevation, for example, and increase intensity this way. When I'm doing the range of motion. It's a different movement, so you have to just get mentally prepared to do that, and that's why I think deloading in this way works really well. Obviously, you don't want to grind the reps. You don't want to just grind out, because that's also gonna very fatiguing. But I'm talking about just getting used to the new movement, new intensity, or if you transition from tuck planche push-up to advanced tuck push-up, it's great if you have it figured out before you actually start your cycle. When it comes to the macro cycle, it's like I said, I mostly look at the from perspective of goals that I have. So for example, you can call, I guess, that my focus is on the body weight, upper body skills, specific skills. And so every mesocycle, I want to just increase the variations, just want to make the variations harder. So for example, use lighter bands. Throughout the mesocycle, I'm going to build up the volume with this intensity. Next mesocycle, I'm going to increase the intensity and again build volume. And after a couple of these cycles, or maybe like it can be even 10 of these cycles, because the goal is actually achieving the skill. And for example, after a couple of these cycles, I achieve full 90-degree push-up. That's when my goal is kind of like achieved. And I can, for example, move towards the phase when I'm going to be more focused on lower body training and flexibility, or, I'm going to be more towards like base building, and not, because obviously I didn't tell you that the farther I go, the more focus is actually on specific skills, less on the weighted dip stuff and barbell rows. That's I think that I just told you about my whole training routine and what I'm doing. Yes, it was. I think that I said everything.
So much interesting, man. You mentioned a lot of great things in training. You have a specificity, you have variety of exercise, you have the DUP, daily undulated periodization, and your plan seems very well made. So you are on the right way to progress. That's not you don't. That's not for nothing that you are at what well, that you are at your level now. So it's very interesting to talk about this because you really well resume your the stuff, the good things just now.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I like to test out things on myself. It's not always going to be optimal. Sometimes, obviously, ego comes into play. Sometimes, just me being bored comes into play, and actually, more optimal thing would be to do this boring stuff. That's how training usually works. That the more and yesterday David chimed in because someone asked on the podcast, what do you think about greasing the groove for front lever, right? And David, I was really, because I don't have any strong opinion on that, for example, but he asked David specifically. So I wrote David on Instagram and I asked him, like, what is your opinion on, not what is your opinion, but could you just answer this guy's question under my video? And he told me, and he asked two questions. What is your opinion on greasing the groove for front lever? And what would you say is the best routine for front lever if I can already hold it for 5 seconds and I would like to increase time? And obviously, David, being a very critical person that is really like into training science and everything, he knows that there are no methods, and calisthenics is very prone to that, to methods, to pyramid methods. Some sort of magic routine. There's no stuff like that. It all gonna comes down to your principles, to your frequency, volume, intensity, recovery. To your exercise selection, more or less, to your injury like prevention in terms of recovery stuff, periodization, progression model. It's all gonna be it's all gonna come down to that. So there's no way to there's no point to looking for magical methods. And he told that if something sounds too good to be true, it's probably not true. That was his opinion.
Yes, but in this example, maybe I'm a little bit biased by this because I did a lot of greasing the groove, and maybe if there is one thing magical in calisthenics, I would say it is this method. Maybe it is because I did a lot of great work before, or I have a lot of good foundation.
Okay.
But I think it's a kind of training who can enhance your capacity very fast, but maybe not maintaining this level a lot of time.
Okay.
But if you choose one method to have the maybe the front lever in 1 month, I would clearly recommend cruising the groove
Of course.
instead of traditional training, because you have so much specificity, so much time to practice it, and it looks very like a magic. You also have some others kind of stuff like pyramidal training and things like this. But like you say, like David said, there is no magical. But maybe
Apart from greasing the groove. Morgan, did you try greasing the groove in the past with something?
I've think about using it, but the problem was that it was boring to warm up each time before doing the skill. I mean, you don't need a lot of warm up of warming up to do a front lever, but it wasn't that comfortable each time, and I didn't have access every 2 hours to a bar, uh, which was not that convenient. That's it. So
Yeah.
I never did it seriously, but yeah, when I was at home on the weekend, I was doing some tuck front levers on door pull-up bars every 2 hours or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that serious.
Okay, so you don't have like any, because I think like people when some people have pull-up bars at home, they unintentionally do greasing the groove. Every time they walk in, they walk past, the door, they're gonna do one pull-up or something, and this way they're gonna build actually up to the certain point. I used to test out greasing the groove for I think a couple of weeks with my straddle planche. Uh, but during this time, I did that specific. I had specific reason. I wanted to decrease my fatigue levels. Um, well, so probably not the best idea to do that with straddle planche that you can barely hold. Like right now, I'm thinking, but yes, I was basically having the time that I had to just pass some sort of test on my uni, which was like swimming and running, and therefore, I wanted to decrease that fatigue from training, and so I tested out greasing the groove with straddle planche and with one arm chin up on pulley with the pulley system. So I had some sort of intensity, and I was doing just I think 2 reps or 3 reps. But again, I don't have any strong opinion. Maybe it helped, maybe not. Maybe it was like you, Morgan, said with the warm up. It was just a bit strange for me to do this, even though probably nothing is gonna happen. Honestly, like with this kind of skills, but it's still just not. I'm not able to sustain this kind of thing over longer periods of time. So for me, that's gonna be only like a cycle. Okay, I'm gonna do 2 weeks of greasing the groove because I'm on holidays and I don't have an access to something to the gym. So instead of going 2 hours, I may do just in the morning. I'm gonna do 3 handstand push-ups. Then after an hour after lunch, when I'm back, for example, to my room, I'm gonna do again those handstand push-ups, and in the evening before going to bed. That's a good way to maintain stuff, for example, probably. So yeah, so I'm not demonizing that. I'm not glamorizing it. But it's I just don't like any methods, any magical, like Pavel said, your nerves become superconductors, like statements of this type. Uh, because it's probably true, yes, but and I totally respect it, but I just am very sensitive when it comes to like some things that sounds too good to be true, you know. Not talking about greasing the groove right now specifically. Not talking about it in general.
Yeah, of course. There is no magic things.
Yeah.
You just said like that later on you plan on maybe training for the one-arm handstand.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that it will take you 2 years of training for it, 10 hours a week?
What again?
So you said that maybe later on you will start training the one-arm handstand, and do you know that it will take you 2 years of working on it 10 hours a week? Do you think it is worth it to train for it?
Okay, so you suspect it's gonna take that much time, and I'm like
I may be exaggerating, but
yes, but
I think it will take a lot of time.
Okay, I know what's your point. Basically, if it's worth to put so much time and sacrifice into one skill. Well, it's a good question. It's a really good question because like it's very technical. It's very you mentally have to be very like prepared into it, and yes, so it's a very good question, and I'm gonna have to just think through it if that's at this point, if that's really worth it, because having a hand standing on one arm with one finger on the floor is like 10 times easier than standing on one arm. And I would have to just plan out, the progression and everything and sacrifice. Maybe not 2 years, honestly, because my handstand base is quite well. Like it's good, but definitely a year of just working on that. Uh, I don't know yet, I don't know. And I also don't know if I can combine that with other pushing skills. I guess you can say that it's more technical, it's more, but there's no, you always gonna be, it's always gonna bring some fatigue, and having another like really big goal like planche, like straddle planche, for example, is not visible, I would say, if I worked on one-arm handstand. So these are plans for the future, definitely, if anything. But on my own personal journey, honestly, I see myself much more like getting to the when it comes to some sort of mastery of anything. I see myself getting one-arm handstand. I would, if anything, that I could reach some sort of mastery, it would be a handstand. It would not be any kind of front lever. So I would never go for Victorian like David is going for, because David had very good front lever. Even when was training only calisthenics, he already like had 30 seconds front lever, full front lever, 30 seconds after like couple of years of training. So you can see the tendency that he is probably very good. He is prone to just this horizontal pulling elements, probably, right? I don't know if these are leverages, if these are, the biomechanics of like his body, strong muscles. I do have a theory about swimmers, and I'm gonna tell you about that that's very interesting. I'm actually gonna talk about that in my next video, but that's
Oh man, I would like to hear that.
it's for like it's exclusive content only for you guys, so appreciate that. So yeah, so I'm talking just so for example, when it comes to myself, I see that it it doesn't take that much effort for me to excel at handstand training, right? So naturally, if I would seek for some kind of wow thing, I would go for one-arm handstand. Or some kind of flexibility feed, because that's also something that if I put work in, I'm gonna just get that. I don't know why, maybe because I started younger, but when I wanted a split, I learned that pretty fast, even though I was very inflexible in before. So these are my, let's say, lanes of the potential is the highest in these categories. So I didn't figure out if that's worth it. If you ask for that, but I have to figure it out.
I think with this kind of stuff, the very interesting things and maybe the frustrating things is to spend many hours a day or a week to on it. It looks very nice. Once you have the base, and you can start working on this, you just have to enjoy and take the time and
Yes, yes,
put
yes.
many hours a day into handstand practice. It should be very great, but you need time and you need recovery and so on.
And imagine the hesitation you have to something that is ruining your ability or ruining your consistency attempting one-arm handstand. How you not hesitating, sorry, how hard it is to resist this urge to try. Oh, maybe today I'm gonna try, and you try, you build up those patterns that are not optimal, and instead of working, actually doing those 15 seconds of hold with two fingers on the floor, or working on those shoulder taps against the wall, you want to try, you want to attempt. That's not a way you're gonna get one-arm handstand. Definitely not. Or maybe there are some people in street workout community that I'm sure were not working like proper hand balancing, program for that, and they still achieved one-arm handstand. But we all know what kind of freaks we have in this community.
Yes, it just raw strength. And I agree with you. I see a lot of people, even some friend of mine who attempt when I'm in sand every session instead of working on really hard and good foundations like 30 seconds, one finger hold, and or taps, very complicated shoulder taps, things like this.
Yes, yes, and that's boring stuff. After if you do that for weeks and weeks, you just get bored. You just do those same, oh, two fingers. Right now, I'm doing one finger. What a magical thing! But it's like that. You have to just enjoy this process. You just have to get it. There's no calisthenics is very often being associated with fun sort of training style, but it's like anything. If you want real results, you're gonna have to be just I got mad talking about it, uh, but if you want like real results, you have to just follow a training program that is gonna assume doing very similar stuff over and over and do very minor jumps and very minor progressions. That's how it is, and that's what is unfortunate truth. Like people, like I said, I do have some contact with people because of this. I don't know if you saw. I'm doing like me and my friend are doing this series. It's a Polish channel, like launched about I think 2 months ago, where we take some people from other training backgrounds, like for example breakdance.
I saw it. I saw it.
Yes, and I'm taking those, and we take those people, we do interview with them, and these are always disciplines that are somewhat, there are some similarities with the way they train or with the skills they're doing. So, for example, you have someone who is training breakdance, naturally you think that his handstand game and everything is going to be on point, and you're very interested in how these people train. Do they follow some sort of training, some sort of routine? Because they do have great handstand, they do have like sometimes one-arm handstands. How they train, it's very nice to just apply certain things from like the knowledge they have to our training. And then we had some conversations with climbers, because it's an episode that we did not release because I don't have that much time right now for editing that, but I'm gonna go with that soon. And so, for example, climbers, these are the guys that are doing front levers, for example.
Yeah,
I remember being in this gym, talking with these dudes. Really nice community, by the way. Like, I don't know if in other countries as well, but we went there to this gym, and all these people, just came in. Were talking with us, asking things. We were just exchanging informations about our training, our like experience. Oh, and they train like they have certain goal for the session to jump from like one like rock or this thing that imitates rock to another, and they just all try, they give tips to each other. Really nice community. And for example, like speaking with them, like, how do you train? Do you train some sort of like weighted pull-ups, weighted like chin-ups, or do you do some front lever specific work? Is that carry on it? And with talking to all these people, I assume that uh, in calisthenics you have to just balance it out. You have the strength training principles that you have, and you also have this component of the skill, trying, attempting, like in breakdance, for example. Playing, yeah, better word, right? Better word, playing. So you have this. That's why calisthenics is so awesome, right? Because it is strength training, and it also looks great, and you have this component of playing. Um, so yeah, so that's and because what was my point? My point was that, for example, but you have to include this strength principles and programming, and everything to calisthenics if you want best results. And people associate calisthenics with these other disciplines that are much more about playing, attempting, and just this way of developing skills, like acrobatics, for example. And it's not going to work as well in calisthenics, because you're not going to develop the base. You're going to have the skill, but not going to develop a strength base that you need for this. The strength base that is definitely just bigger to your needs with calisthenics than, for example, for acrobatics. That's how I see that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. For example, I have you mentioned climbers. I have a lot of friends who climb at a very good level in Belgium, and I think maybe the top 10 climber in Belgium have have one-arm chin-ups and front lever without even training for it. It's just amazing, and the level of this
Speaks for itself.
of their strength is impressive. Same things for a gymnast or a breakdancer who tried maybe planche. It's the transfer is very amazing, and they don't train specifically for strength. And like you said, in calisthenics, all our training is just specific on strength on strength training, and the part of playing is maybe smaller than the other discipline.
Yes, I agree.
So it's been some time, I think.
Yeah, so again, that's because of me, because of myself. I just sometimes can't stop from just speaking, but I hope it was at least like fluent and not, and
No,
on point most of the times at least.
it
But
was really
okay,
great.
so do you want to hear my anecdote with swimmers?
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Because
finishing.
that's like the study even that I've done. Not like I'm joking, of course, but so basically, I know so I was testing out. I do have a friend that is from Poland. That sometimes, like from time to time, couple of months, we meet and we train together. He's like older than me, but what he's doing is doing like handstand on barbells, on dumbbells, doing this like crazy handstand circus type of stuff, you know. And we tested out bench press. Well, while we was testing out this bench press, you know, because he just urged me to try like do bench press and just introduce that to your training is going to help you. So while doing that, we had a conversation that you know, like for example, like my friend, this because this guy that I do this skill exposure project. This guy with glasses, like that I'm very often like recording with him. He has a very good front lever, like 10 seconds about full front lever. While on other stuff, like for example in handstand, I'm better. You have much more solid handstand. He can do, for example, handstand push-up and pull-ups. We are like pretty similar. But again, another person that is very strong at front lever. And he is a competitive swimmer. Okay, so we have one person, and like, so I told him about that. Like, I just like mentioned like very quickly, and he is a swimmer, and this guy, this that doing like that I test bench press with is like, you know what? There's something with swimmers because I was on a swim. I was like meeting up with my friend who is a swimmer, and I tried front lever. He went like what are you doing? And he told me like, oh, front lever. It's some like this is like static position when you hold your body. So this guy that had zero experience with calisthenics, on like swimming pool on those barriers, you know, he just goes there and he held like full front lever for a couple of seconds without any training,
Damn.
So then I started like, okay, so we have one swimmer, second swimmer, and then I have conversation with David, and he like starts, oh well, yes. So I trained calisthenics, and then I transitioned into gymnastics, but I didn't mention before that I was a competitive swimmer, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what the? Yes. So we have to, and then I'm like even getting deeper into my like my memory, and I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that Chris, like when I was in Berlin, Chris Tenix, he also said to me, and it's on this interview, but I don't remember well, but I'm sure that he told me that he was a swimmer before. He
Okay.
had some chin-ups, you know, and also pulling athlete in general. So my
Very
theory
good pulling,
is
yeah.
that swimming, like swimming transitions really well into pulling in calisthenics. Maybe that's, you know, they doing, if you think about it, like for example this it's butterfly, not dolphin or butterfly. It's very high rep, like straight arm pulling, or like at least the mechanics are maybe a bit similar, you know, and they very often like have like huge backs, like lats. It's, I'm sure there's something. Like I'm absolutely sure that there's some sort of correlation. Like I'm gonna do a study in the future. I'm gonna just take 200 swimmers, and they're gonna test out their like they're uh, gonna be put on 3 months calisthenics program with with, for example, pushing focus and pulling focus, and they're gonna just have massive. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have massive results in pulling in comparison to their pushing. And for example, people from traditional gym training usually have the opposite, because the majority of you know, trainees in the gym that train conventionally are gonna be more like gonna be stronger at pushing, they're gonna do more bench presses, they're gonna do more this kind of stuff, because chest is also, you know, more, let's say, appealing muscle, and more fun to train, so people choose that. And so yeah, so again, it's very interesting to me to see the correlations between different disciplines and how they transfer, because there's definitely something.
Yeah.
The anecdote.
It's very interesting, and I agree with you. I have some friends who are good swimmer, and I would put my hands to cut to they have a really good pulling strength. Just I have a friend who who weighed 90 kg, and he is good at front lever without working on it, and he has done a lot of swimming in the
Oh,
past. So really impressive.
yeah, I'm sure I'm.
And like you said, you want to put people in a study, and this is something we miss in calisthenics. It is a calisthenics study. It would be really interesting to have a lot of study in this way to
Yes, so
read.
it was obviously like I told that like half that was half joke, but maybe in the future, why not to? Like really,
Yeah,
that kind of
we
stuff.
we've been contacted by people who have done a study on pull-ups, and in a lab with calisthenics athletes, and they tested they speed of pulling with straps or without straps, and they measure their lat activation and
Okay,
things like this.
okay. So when you have the grip component, right? So just like in deadlift, so
Yes,
the
straps.
radiation effect or something like that. Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
so that was the study done, right? And what was the like outcome?
no, they don't have the outcome yet. But we spoke with them, and we spoke on it in this channel. We just described the experiment and so on. They made a really good video about it, and when the outcomes will be published, and they will come on the podcast too. So I think it would be maybe the first great calisthenics study in in
Yeah,
France.
that's interesting. That really like love it, honestly.
Yeah, we will bring you the result. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and overly, I would like to at the end, because we're gonna finish probably, right? But yes, like so you, Morgan, you was like you was competing, right? On that last time. So how? Because I saw only some stories of yours, like from the competition. I know you guys were there together, right?
Yeah.
So could you like very quickly tell me how it went, and how not only in terms of like, but the whole, you know. mm,
Okay, so basically, I didn't plan to compete in the first time, but I did so because anyway I was planning on coming to see Alex, also to see Gwendal, which is another organizer, and he was one of my clients 1 or 2 months ago. Um, so anyway, I was planning to come, and Gwendal told me that anyway in my category we were going to be only like 2 athletes, because I'm in the open category, which was the category where they was all athletes were not from Belgium. Um, but at the end of the day, we were 4 athletes.
oh, because you're from France, and
Yeah,
you are,
yeah.
you're from Belgium, right?
Yeah.
I'm from France, and Alex is from Belgium, and
Simon is from Canada, right?
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because I know him, but I was sure, like it's shocking that you guys, like three of you, are from different countries. Actually, I thought that we it was all like French community, but yeah, pretty
So
interesting. Okay, so continue. Yeah.
I decided to compete anyway, and I only had 1 month to prep for it. So basically, I had a high training frequency and the big lift, and a quite high intensity. I was training with singles almost each session. So on the midday, if I could speak like that, there was a quite good feeling between the participants. It was quite well organized.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
We made some friends, and I was quite pleased with my performance. So basically, we started with the muscle up. I didn't train for muscle up in the last 6 months, so I only succeed to get 2.5 kg muscle up. So
do you have some sort of PR like before you tried?
no. I think 2 or 3 years ago I did a muscle up with 5 kg, but it was with a huge giving.
Okay.
So it was just funny to have now an official PR. Then we went to pull-ups. Pull-up wise, I did 40 kg. Then on my second attempt, I did 42.5, which was my old PR. Then I did beat my record with 45 kg pull-up, and I was quite pleased with that.
That's great. And what is your weight or on the competition day?
I was 84 kg.
Okay, so we are pretty similar actually.
Sorry?
We are pretty similar actually.
Yeah, and I think I asked you for your height, and
yes. I'm like 180 centimeters tall, basically.
I'm 182. So yeah, we are quite similar.
Yes, quite similar. And my pull-up was I think 51 with potential on 53 max. So we are also like pretty similar, right there.
But I think you are way stronger than me pushing wise.
Pushing, maybe on like handstand, it's like I said, my better
strength.
Yeah, but on for example on front lever probably you're much better, and you Alex definitely are. I saw some front levers from you. You're doing some, so
then we went to dips. I did my first attempt with 60 kg. Then I did the second one with 62.5, and I missed this one, which was quite surprising because my most recent performance in dips was quite fluid, the 65 kg dips. And my old PR from 1 year ago was 70 kg.
Also, 70, and you okay.
So then on my third attempt, I did again 62.5. On this time, I got it.
Okay.
But I mean, it was okay. I didn't expect that much more because I had some strain on my left pecs the week before. So at least I'm just happy that I didn't injure myself on the midday. Then we went on squats, and my strength is my lower body. So I was the best of my category. I did 140, then I did 150, and then I ended with my third attempt at 155. But I think I could have gone for more.
Definitely. It was.
So 155.
That's where you're for example, much stronger than I am. So your lower body is on point. I see.
Ça lead it doesn't help me much on front lever and planche.
Oh yeah, definitely. For sure, like every single kilo on lower body is like another 1 month of training, or 1 month or even more. Okay, so you did that. So you had like 4 lifts, right?
And after that, there was 2 other exercise. I mean, so there was a maximum of repetition of pull-ups with 32 kg.
Okay.
And I got 5 reps. I expected to get 3, but I don't know. With with the hype, I got 5. I was quite pleased. Then we moved to dips, and it was a maximum of reps with 48 kg.
Yes.
And I did 2. I tried my best, and I failed on the third. But anyway, I was so sore.
Well, but that's pretty like exhausting competition, if I think, because you're doing 1 rep max, couple of attempts. You're doing your lower body, which is gonna just drain you, and then you do endurance type of like.
Yeah, we did all this thing in one day.
On top of that, we started with muscle up on at 1 p.m. And when we did the endurance pull-up on dips, it was already like 7:30 or something like that. It was almost 8 o'clock in the evening. So it did last for quite a while. But even so, the other 3 guys in my categories were quite strong. I mean, like in pull-ups, they did on average 65 or 70. And on dips, someone did 125 for a body weight of 73. I still got the third place because of my squats. And also because one of the guys missed all 3 of his attempts on the dips because he went too heavy on the first one, and he could not lower the weight on the other attempt. So I still got the third place.
You get 0 kilos basically.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, because he missed 100, then he missed it again on the 2 next attempts.
Okay.
So 0 point.
So he didn't get that greedy. Like if he started with 90, he would have got the third place, but
yes,
I got it.
Go like 80% of his capacity, and still it like would be okay. But I guess I like this component of planning in this kind of competition, just like in powerlifting, I guess. So I like that. So in freestyle, for example, they are doing like in breakdance battles, I found, and in weighted calisthenics or in street lifting, they adapt things from powerlifting. Like you guys, like in general, we adapt things from powerlifting. I like that.
This competition was quite well organized because it was the first official street lifting competition in Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
And what I liked was that the rules were quite strict. I mean, range of motion wise, also for the keep from the muscle up, etc. So it was quite fair, I found.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. And you, Alex, like you do you plan some sort of this like do you plan this type of stuff in the future, or do you like are you focused right now on more like on your training with calisthenics, your own training? And
Yeah, I'm more on my own training than competing, but maybe like Morgan, it could come that because I also do some street lifting to enhance my raw strength, and I like hitting numbers on basic movements. So maybe one time I will compete, and that's also why we organize the competition. It's in Belgium. That's to meet people who do also raw strength and street lifting.
Mm-hmm.
but I will definitely not specialize in weightlifting because I much love love much more the static stuff than
Okay.
weightlifting.
Yeah.
But
So
I like
like,
both.
yeah.
So I will never be good at competing, but maybe one time, if if I have the occasion, it would be great.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, this is our opportunity to meet people, right? Again, and having this sort of experience is also very good to have. Something that I was like, I thought that if anything, I would compete in weighted calisthenics at some point. Not my future, like close future plans, but maybe something. Definitely.
And I also think it's the occasion to hit your PR. Maybe if you do a competition like this, there were no pressure. You don't have to have huge numbers to get there. But if you can do it every year and maybe hit your PR every year, it's very nice.
To see the progression, yeah,
Yeah,
on a
yeah, yeah. And
basis.
don't comparing with others, and don't be mad to get less good than them. But if you just do your stuff and progress, it's the most important things.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would like to the competition because it was the first time, and I would like the competition go in this direction in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I
So
think we're going to wrap it up now,
All
if
right.
that's okay, Alex. So
Yeah. So okay. So I would like to say before we end that I would really love to. I really enjoyed the discussion. Thank you for having me here. I think that I'm really like I feel proud that there's something like this in the because I'm pretty sure that it's gonna get more exposure at some point. But yeah, just keep on like going with this podcast. If I have any motivation to learn French at some point, it's gonna be this podcast. So yeah, and so keep doing that. I'm really glad that you actually do that, and you both have the YouTube channels. I would definitely love to have like both of you on either a podcast or some kind of video. So yeah, because you guys both bring something very interesting for me to the table. You're also young, I think, like myself. Like you're younger than me, Morgan, right?
I'm 19.
You're 19, right? And Alex, like how old are you?
I'm 24.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I'm already old.
yeah, 24 is okay. Yeah, and I would like to say hello to my girlfriend who brought me this great shirt.
Man,
I just saw on your story
Yeah, like
yesterday that you posted it, and you said something like
it
anyway when I wear it I'm happy, or something like
because
that.
honestly, like it's I don't know, but I just it's so great to have this kind of shirt. Like
yeah, when you have your own t-shirt, it's very nice. I also have mine, Zero Lose
oh,
Worker.
you have one really? Like, do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have it like some close to you? Maybe I would like to see that. Or do you
yeah.
have?
You can see on my photo,
Oh, okay, okay.
and on the logo is me too. I don't have one here, but I will show you. I will show you.
All right, all right. But yeah, it's really good stuff to have. Honestly, like it honestly makes me happy because I
and
I see
and
just
stronger and stronger.
yeah.
So
So yeah.
I
So
also
that's it for the episode. That was the 15th episode of the Calisthenics Science Podcast. Thanks for listening until the end. Thanks again for Frinks for this episode. See you later.